Okay. Welcome, everybody. I'm Karen Broughton. I'm Deputy Chief Exec of the Integrated Care Board. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon so that we can share with you the South West London Investment Fund. I'm going to be joined in the presentation by a number of people who are asked to introduce themselves when they present. But needless to say, this is a kind of a whole ICP initiative, so important that we get lots of input to today. Just let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do then, shall we, today? Jane, you got your hand up? No? Up and down? Okay. So let's just talk about what we're going to cover today. So we want to give you an introduction to the investment fund. And just to remind you, we'll keep doing this, there are two elements to the investment fund. There's the South West London Health Inequalities Fund, and there's also the Integrated Care Partnership Priorities Fund. Last year, that was called the Innovation Fund, just for anybody that's kind of coming into year two. So two elements to the funding, which we're going to explain to you and take you through as we go through this afternoon. We're also going to share with you the process for this year, which is slightly different. So we had lots of feedback following the first Innovations Fund that we ran. We had some sessions with people, and people have also then contributed in other ways. So we've looked at how we design the process. We've changed it based on the feedback that we've heard. We'll take you through the new process for the year coming. There's also a range of support that is put in place to make sure that people can apply, and we'll also touch therefore on both the VCSE and Healthwatch support that's available, but also other support as we move forward. So want to make sure that people have every part of the information they need to be able to do a good bid, and that they have the right processes and they know everything that's going on and required at each step of the way. So want to just make sure that we take you through that today. Would you mind just going on one, please, Chloe? So I talked about the investment fund having two elements to it. So just let's break those down a little bit, and we'll spend a little bit more time as we go through just bringing these to life even more. If we start on the left-hand side with the Priorities Fund, imminently the South West London partnership will launch its 5-year strategy. A number of people on the call will have been involved in developing the priorities for the ICP, and also the sessions that we've had to get us to where we are now. So that will be launched imminently. The idea of this part of the fund is that the ICP Priorities Fund really targets the support to deliver the ICP strategic plan and their priorities. It's divided into two elements. The first element is a workforce priority. I'm going to come back to that in a second. And we are the ICP board has agreed to allocate 80% of the fund towards workforce priority. And the remaining 20% of the priority will be on the remaining ICP priorities, which Rachel's going to share with us in just a second. The total funding available for that part of the fund will be 5 million. It'll be split over 2 years. So again, some of the feedback that we heard from year one was very difficult to spend large or even small quantities of money in a very short space of time. So could we make the process kind of more elongated? So we've done that as a result of the feedback that we've heard. So that's the ICP Priorities Fund. I suppose a number of people might think, why is the 80% allocation on workforce? Well, when the ICP originally began to look at the strategic priorities for health and care across South West London, one of the very strong conversations that people were having was the ability to have the right workforce in place and the challenges that every organisation was having with workforce. And so the ICP agreed that for the first year, there would be a significant focus from all of the partners on workforce, hence the reason that the fund is allocated in that way. The second part of the fund is the Health Inequalities Fund, and this is an element that is funded by NHS England, comes down to the ICB, and it has a specific focus to target health inequalities that exist across South West London. And we have looked again and heard from feedback about how we allocate the funding for that element this year. 75% of the funding available will be for existing schemes, and 25% will be for new schemes. So in a number of the things that we're going to work on together over the coming years, there will be elements that can be implemented quickly, And there will be elements that will take multiple years to actually, to bed down and to kind of create change. And that's why we've agreed that for health inequalities, we would split the fund in that way with the board this year. Place-based partnerships for this would receive an allocation of funding, and that's based on a needs-based approach. Catherine's going to take us through later on how the Health Inequalities Fund is allocated out. And in relation to that element of the fund, there's £4.3 million available, and that's for 23-24 alone. So significant amount of investment. The board is really pleased to be able to open this out and to actually do this again for a second year, but obviously learning very strongly from the feedback that we had from year one. Would you mind just going on one, please, Chloe? So we've talked about the first element being around delivery of the integrated care partnership strategy. Rachel, I wonder if I could just ask you to share with everybody how we've got to where we are with the strategy and the kind of things, the priorities that are coming out of it.
Thanks, Karen. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Flagg. I'm Director of Integrated Care Partnership Development for the Integrated Care System in South West London. So we started probably about a year ago on the engagement to develop the priorities for the partnership. And there was a call out to all the partners to share their insight and engagement reports, so that what we were starting with was the views of local people. Once that stage had been gone through, there was a discussion both at the ICP board itself and with the People's Panel, which engages with people from across the whole of South West London, to then narrow down from potential priorities to a set of 10. And then we published the discussion document, which is what's shown in the slide in front of you back in January. People fed back on the discussion document, and we made some amendments to it at that stage. And then we had a big event in May. We had about 300 people taking part in that from across the voluntary sector, local government, the NHS, and we had also people representing their local communities taking part in that session as well. And we did some really detailed work on action planning. And then we've got to the point where we've produced our strategy. It's been signed off by the Integrated Care Partnership Board. There'll be some more comms coming out on it shortly, but I can drop the link into the chat here, because it is available on the internet. It's quite short, so it won't take you long if you want to skim read the whole thing to get a sense of it. Move on. What we agreed on as a partnership was 6 strategic priorities, and as well as that, a set of cross-cutting themes. Perhaps, Chloe, if we move on to the next one, it's probably easier for me to speak to those. Thank you. So these are the strategic priorities. So health inequalities is one of them, and that's very much around the wider determinants of health and well-being. And building on some of the work that's already been happening in terms of thinking about our core 20 population, so that those living in the most deprived areas with particular health inequalities. And we've particularly focused on empowering our communities to improve their health and well-being. Prevention, so again, that's about whole system approaches, and we're going to take a particular focus on healthy weight and thinking about how the voluntary sector can contribute to that, as well as thinking about how we improve personalised self-care for people. We've got older people as one of our strategic priorities, and what we're focusing on there is a few key issues where we feel we can make a real difference as a partnership. So that's around things like social isolation, supporting carers, and being as dementia friendly as we can be. Children and young people is a key theme for the partnership, and we've got a range of different things there, but particularly focused on areas like SEND, where we really need to work together and thinking about how we support young people where there might be some safeguarding issues. Positive mental well-being. So what we wanted to do with that strategic priority is really focus in a positive way on mental well-being rather than mental ill health. Children and young people are a key priority within that, as well as doing more again on the wider determinants of those healthy environments that can improve mental well-being. And then, of course, the workforce theme that Karen alluded to earlier, and some of the actions there are linked to the difficult to recruit roles, making South West London a great place to work, which also helps with retention, which is a key theme as well, supporting local people into employment. And one of the things we've been talking about in that work stream is how we make it easier to connect people to the jobs that exist in health and care, and how we can support people to apply and be successful in applying for those roles. And then there's a bit about thinking about our future workforce and different ways of working in health and care. So that's just a quick run through of those. In addition to our strategic priorities, we've made some broad partnership commitments to some of the cross-cutting themes, and some of those things will very much come through within the work streams I've just described. So something, for example, in the workforce theme includes how we as organisations can champion equality, diversity and inclusion. And in all of our work streams, we want to make sure we're elevating the patient care and community voice. Yes, I have heard of her. Somebody needs to go on mute. Thank you. And then another key theme that we've made a partnership commitment to is working together on the green agenda. So those are our cross-cutting themes. I'll drop the link to the full strategy into the chat, and I will hand over to Angela, who's going to talk more about the fund itself.
Hello everyone, I'm Angela Flaherty and I'm one of the transformation directors within South West London ICB, and Rachel and I work very closely together on the development of the Priorities Fund. So just to kind of recap some of the items that Karen and Rachel have said, and to bring it to life a bit further. So the ICB Priorities Fund, we've got sort of two sums of money within it. We've got 3.8 million that we're allocating to workforce and seeking applications against the workforce priority, and then 950,000 across the other 4 priorities and also the 3 cross-cutting themes. The one thing to really note about the ICB Priorities Fund, and we got asked this question last year in the Innovation Fund as well, is this one doesn't include health inequalities because we've got the other dedicated fund. So it's important to note that it's not being excluded from that perspective, but we've got a whole dedicated fund on that one. That's the best way to try and channel those ideas. So just to talk a little bit further around the financial allocations. So we've got the 3.8 million against workforce. And within that, we've put together a kind of a collar and a cap, so a minimum funding envelope by which we want people to apply, and a maximum. So 50,000 for workforce with a minimum, and 450,000 as a maximum. And the reason that we've put those minimum maximum thresholds in is directly related to the stakeholder feedback that we had last year. So we ran a big stakeholder feedback session for the investment fund last year. People said they really would have liked to have known what the kind of minimum values were and the maximum values were that we were looking for. So hopefully this will provide a bit of clarity to those of you that are looking to bid. I'm just asking the chat, per annum or aggregate values. So aggregate values, so total values of the schemes. So these schemes, that's a really nice prompt, whoever's put that in the chat for me. These schemes will be running, as Karen said at the beginning, until March 2025. So they will straddle 2 financial years. So in that, there'll be 1 quarter at the end of this year, hopefully, and then the following 4 quarters of the following financial year. I'll come on to talk about that in a moment. I know somebody had their hand up, but it'd be good to come to questions towards the end if that's all right. We've got a big session dedicated towards it. So we've allocated 800,000 across 4 of the priorities listed below. And the reason we've done that is that these particular 4 priorities, as Rachel has mentioned, kind of further developed than some of the others. You will see within the strategy, and those of you that are familiar with it know this already, those areas are all the way down to action level already, and we'll be looking for those in your applications. And for the other 3 cross-cutting themes, we've allocated 150,000 across them, which may not seem like a huge amount at the moment, but actually you should see a number of those applications coming through in, say, workforce. So somebody might be looking to tackle EDI within workforce, so you get an application there too, because they are cross-cutting. But we did want to make sure there was some dedicated money for those 3 cross-cutting themes to just accelerate the work in that space. Just move on to the next one, Chloe. Okay, so what are we looking for in the applications? Well, hopefully for those of you that were involved last year, you'll see the improvements that we've made to the application process when you have a look at the online portal. So this year we've been much clearer about the information that we require. So first of all, we're looking for really strong alignment to the ICP priorities, and my colleagues from the Health Innovation Network will demo the system for you in a moment so you can see how it works. So that will be both at the priority level, at the focus area level, and then the action level. So you'll be able to really clearly hook onto one of those to demonstrate how you will deliver. We're going to be requesting some really clear information, some funding information. So what are you looking for? What kind of funding are you looking for over that financial period until the end of March 25, and splitting that out into pay and non-pay. And we've got a little user guide on the financial template we'll be asking you to submit, so it should be fairly clear, but there is support available if you need it. Impact. This is really critical that we try and understand from your application the impact that you seek to make, and also understanding why you think you can make that impact. What's the evidence to say this is the right thing to do? We're going to be looking at that more strongly this year. And then finally, measurement. We do need to know that it's managed to achieve the impact you set out to. So being really clear how you'll measure the things that you're planning to do on an ongoing basis throughout the duration of the scheme, but also at the end, how will you know that you've achieved the success that you set out to? All of that information can be found on the application form, and there's a FAQs alongside it as well. Chloe, move on, next one. Okay, a little bit about the shortlisting process and the role of place. The shortlisting process, just to be really clear and transparent about how these decisions will be made, we're looking to undertake the shortlisting in pairs. So that's pairing up some of the strategic priority leads, the people that develop the strategy, with another NHS ICB exec or director. As this is NHS monies, we need to make sure that we always have an NHS person there in that decision making. But we're also, because we realise there might be some conflicts of interest arriving, as lots of people have expressed interest in the schemes, we're going to have lots of people available to double up on shortlisting so that people aren't shortlisting their own application. We're really aware of that, and that was raised last time. And that our schemes, our financial colleagues will be reviewing those schemes just to make sure we've got all the right information as we go along, so that we don't have to keep coming back out to people. Again, we've taken on board that learning from last time, so we're not going out again and again to people for more information. Preparation for the awarding panel. We will give people good notice if they've been shortlisted to attend what is likely to be a virtual panel. And the panel will be comprised, we haven't got definitive membership yet, of ICB board members, VCSE, Healthwatch Input and other ICP colleagues. And those details of the panel will be publicised on the website in due course. And then just a little bit about the role of place, because this is probably where I get the most questions into the investment fund inbox about. And both from my own place colleagues and from the voluntary sector colleagues as well. It's a bit different this time. So we're really looking for our colleagues in place to kind of be the conduit, to be the person that helps facilitate that collaboration across place, to help people develop their ideas locally, but also, and really importantly, and this is what we're really looking forward to seeing through the Integrated Care Partnerships Priorities Fund, is those bids coming in across those geographical boundaries. We want to see more ideas coming through at scale. So whether that's multi-borough or across the whole of South West London, the more ideas where people come together, the better. So we'll be looking to our ICB colleagues in their formal roles within place to help do that, but also through our relationships with the Voluntary Sector Alliance, who we've got some information on later, to help support that too. And also the role in place, also just to make sure we're not duplicating, because that can happen in these investment processes, just to make sure that we're not taking somebody through to panel that actually we've agreed to fund somewhere else. So they've got a role in that too. So I thought it'd be helpful to provide that bit of clarity. So we can move on now, please. So also, because there's quite a lot of information in there around the ICP strategy, we thought it might be useful to just bring it to life as well. So a number of our colleagues who have been the subject matter experts and leading a number of strands of the ICP strategy are going to be holding some additional information sessions. So, for example, if you want to join us and have a conversation and try and understand more about the workforce priority, we're going to be running that session on Thursday, the 12th of October, between 9 and 11. I'm going to put all of this information up on the website. So some of those TBCs you can see we will be updating. We're quickly finding dates for them at the moment. People are coming back off leave, so we're just trying to pin those down. But if you'd like to attend, again, let us know and we can register you for the event. So you can come along, have a chat with them and learn a bit more about what they're looking for in that workforce area. And also, really importantly, as I've just said before, to collaborate. So the more that we can get different organisations joining up across geographical boundaries, but also across non-traditional boundaries as well. So we've had colleagues, for example, the Chief People Officers from the Acute Trust would really like to get to know some of the people from the voluntary sector. So we're looking at how to bring together people that haven't traditionally worked together before to put schemes in place. So that's it from me from the moment. I'm going to hand over to Dr. John Byrne, who's going to talk to you about the Health and Equalities Fund.
Very formal using the term doctor, Angela. Thank you very much.
Well,
good afternoon, everyone. I'm John Byrne, Chief Medical Officer, and within my directorate sits Health Improvement, which is led by Catherine Heffernan, who's our Director for Health Improvement. So I won't steal too much of our thunder, but just to say, really excited that we're kind of in the second of 3 years of the Health Inequalities Fund, which is investment which has come down to us in the ICB through NHS England. So we absolutely, it's nailed on for next year, which will be the 3rd year too. So we're just going to, a bit like the priority setting fund, is just try and sort of give people the opportunity to build it a little bit into the future, because we are mindful that there's been some frustration that planning is always on a yearly basis as opposed to a 2-yearly basis. So the way we're moving the investment or the Health Inequalities Fund this year is to give providers, whether they're statutory or voluntary, a little bit more opportunity to build in something like slightly longer term into their planning and their delivery. So with that in mind, I'll leave it up to you, Catherine.
Great, thanks, John. So as this slide is showing here, and as John has said, we get funding every year from NHS England, and we're quite keen that we can do a 2-year delivery rather than the yearly delivery, which has frustrated people. So what we're really keen about with this fund is that, similar to the Priorities Fund, is that we'd like the applications to align with the core priorities for the ICP strategy on health inequalities, and that's scaling up innovation to improve outcomes for people in our most deprived areas and our most vulnerable people, addressing the wider determinants of health and well-being, and empowering our communities to improve their health and well-being. And schemes that will be successful will run to the end of March 2025. And whilst we don't know the amount of money which will be allocated to us next year, we anticipate it to be similar to our 4.3 million this year. So that's why we're able to commit to funding the projects to the end of March 2025. Next slide, please. So what's happening is similar to last year. Each of our places will receive an allocation of the funding, and this has been done using a needs-based approach. So the funds were weighted by needs, and that was using the ONS Population Statistics 2021, the core 20 percentages in a needs-based tool. And as you can see there in the box, there's the allocations for each borough for this year, and also it's been mirrored for next year as well. So whilst I can't guarantee those amounts next year, it will be within those figures, because like I've just said, we want to commit to helping you to deliver your projects to the end of March 2025. And that's all on that slide. Next slide. Okay, so Angela is going to pop in here as well. So this is about the process overall. I don't know if you want to do the blue bit, and then I can pop in for my bit.
Catherine and I are getting used to doing a bit of a double act on this information. So we're trying to, where possible, align these processes. It isn't always going to be perfect, but for the moment we've certainly managed to align the first stages, which is the opening. So we're going to be opening the applications up today. So later on today, the webpage will go live, and there'll be links to go through to the application forms, which colleagues for the HIM will talk through in a moment. All the applications close on the 10th of November. And then for the ICP priorities, we're going to be shortlisting as quickly as possible after those closed in those pairs, moderating those, and then making decisions about who to bring forward to panel. with the intention of hosting those panels in early December and making decisions hopefully before Christmas. And we've also, just for those of you involved last year, we've been working really closely with our colleagues in finance and procurement and contracting to just smooth out the process that we had for last year, just to make sure it's a slightly easier award process than before. Catherine, do you want to talk a bit about health inequalities?
Yes, so for health inequalities, you apply through the same portal. And the applications close at the same time. Then in place, each place will review the applications that come through. That then will go through South West London panel, and that should happen early December. And we hope to let people know who are successful the week of the 18th of December, with the plan that projects would go live on the 1st of January. And as you saw on the previous slide, we've money this year and money next year. We won't be going through this process again next year, so that the applications this year should include the monies available for this year and the monies available for next year. We will be expecting successful applicants to report to us regularly on how their projects are progressing, and we will also expect evaluations as well. Those evaluations would be expected at the end of this financial year and again at the end of next financial year. Next slide, I think.
Oops. Oh, fantastic. So this is the bit where I really keep my fingers crossed, everybody. So I welcome my colleagues from the Health Innovation Network to introduce themselves, and they're going to give us a little demonstration. So hopefully I've got Yasmin and Claire somewhere on the screen. They were here a minute ago. I can see them both now. We work really closely with the Health Innovation Network within South West London. I know they're probably familiar to most of you, but particularly they've been helping us with the technology that we're using to do the applications, so that we're not reliant on spreadsheets. So we're moving into the modern age with this. So Claire and Yasmin, do you want to introduce yourselves, and then you can get on with the demonstration?
Sure. Hi everyone, lovely to meet you. I'm Yasmin. I'm one of an NHS navigator working with the Health Innovation Network. We've got lots of experience of running different applications and processes. It's been really great working with Andrew and the wider team. Claire, I'll hand over to you because I think you're going to be sharing your screen shortly.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Claire. I'm a project manager with the Health Innovation Network, and as Yasmin said, we've been sort of helping on the tech side of things of building this portal for the purposes of allocating the funds. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and try to share a short tutorial with you all. One moment, please. Are you all able to see the video up on your screens?
Just a static page at the moment, Claire.
Okay, great. Well, let's hope the audio works. If you guys end up not being able to hear anything, just flag that to me and we'll troubleshoot.
Claire, I think it's currently on the South West London Investment Fund. Is that just checking that's the correct page you want to share?
This is, yeah, this is, it should,
yeah,
should
perfect.
say that.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Are you able to hear that? No. One moment. Welcome to the Southwest London Investment Fund application tutorial. In this short video, we will walk you through the practical elements of the application form. For the purposes of this demo, we will use the Priorities Fund application. However, the information given here is to support with both applications, unless otherwise stated. How to log in. You can locate both the Priorities and Inequalities application on the Southwest London ICS Investment Fund website. After you've selected the fund which you're applying for, you'll be directed to this landing page. Here you'll find information specific to that particular fund application. In the right-hand corner, you'll click Apply to begin the application. Here, you're asked to create an account with SurveyMonkey Applies. If you don't already have an account, you can register here in the top right-hand corner. The application will ask that you verify your email, as with many account services. Once you've done that, you'll be able to access the portal. Here you'll see all the tasks required for the application. You can click through these tasks, save them, and come back to them until you submit the application in its entirety. Once you go through, you'll be asked to complete every question required in all of the task sections. Through this bar on the left-hand corner, you can navigate through the application. Some specific information to note with the ICP priorities application: you may only apply under one priority in one focus area. If you wish to apply under multiple priorities or additional focus areas, you must create a separate application. As you move through and complete sections of the application, you will see that you have the option to save and continue editing or mark as complete. Even if you click mark as complete, you can still go back and edit the application up until the time of submission. Once a section has been completed, you will see this check mark appear next to its title. In order to submit the application in its entirety, all check marks must appear next to the tasks and the descriptions. At the very bottom of each application, you will find a section to upload your financial and mobilization plan template. The link to the templates can be found both here, and on the Southwest London Investment Fund website. If you click on the template, it'll direct you to a separate page. We recommend you download the file onto your computer externally off the browser. Once you've opened the application, we ask that you turn to the first and third tab of the template and read the instructions carefully and thoroughly. We will then ask that you fill out the information on the template in accordance with the guidance stated. We've provided space for you to include all staff costs. We ask that you describe staff costs per quarter in detail. We ask that you continue to describe any other costs associated with the delivery of the program in the space provided. For the mobilization plan, we recognize that moving from an idea to implementation can often be more complex than anticipated. We ask that you input a high-level quarterly estimate of plans and activities in order for us to get an understanding of your delivery strategy. Once you have filled out all the necessary information, save the Excel document on your computer. Return to SurveyMonkey Applies and scroll to the bottom of your page. You'll see this Attach File button where you'll click and locate your template through your file system. Click Upload. You're only accepting files in the format of Excel spreadsheets. Once your file is uploaded, you may mark as complete. Once each task in the application has been completed to the best of your ability, you may click Submit. Should you require any assistance or experience any technical hiccups while trying to submit your application, please be in contact with our support team. Otherwise, you may access the FAQ section on both the Southwest London Investment Fund page and at the very beginning of this application. Thank you for your time and best of luck.
Thank you, Claire. That was really helpful. So that video, I realised it was a bit small for people to see on the screen just now, and certainly with my aging eyes, I'd probably need to change glasses a few times to see that properly and enlarge it. But but we'll have a look at some of the font size on there just to make sure that it really is very clear, even in large screen view, when we put it onto the website. But it will be there, so you can pause it as you go through. We've been having some of our staff internally test the video to see if it works and helps in instructions. But please, as ever with these things, if you have a look at it and it doesn't, if there's anything that you need a bit more further clarification, just reach out. You know, myself, Claire and Yasmin are all here to help. We just want to get this right as much as we can. Claire or Yasmin, is there anything more you want to say about the portal?
No, just to say that the links will be going live from, I think it's 3 o'clock today. So if you do have any problems or any issues, do let us know. We're a friendly bunch over here. We're very happy to help where possible.
Thank you both. Okay, can just have the next slide up, Chloe. Thank you. So hopefully on this call somewhere in the 221 people, I think we've also got Sarah from the Voluntary Community and Social Enterprise Alliance, and this is really a holding page. Just Sarah's been amazing. She's been working really closely with myself and the team in thinking through how we support the voluntary sector and also the statutory organisations to come together a bit more in this funding process. So Sarah's contact details are there. So particularly if you see those 2 bullet points a bit further down the page, if you've got a project idea but do not know how to involve the voluntary sector, reach out to Sarah as well. She can help you think about how they could become a delivery partner in a scheme that you're proposing. And then also if you're a voluntary sector organisation, you want to think about scaling up and working with others across, Sarah can also help support you with those kind of introductions as well. Also just a whole other wealth of knowledge about the voluntary sector and how you can access that. So that's Sarah's contact details there. And just Chloe, just moving on to the next one as well. Oops. And also been working closely with Alyssa from Healthwatch, who I think is probably here as well somewhere. And this is just to really share some of the really good information repositories that we have about insights reports from Healthwatch. And you'll see in the application forms, both for the ICP Priorities Fund and for Health Inequalities, we're going to be asking you to say a bit about how you have worked with patients and carers and your communities and what they think about the scheme that you're proposing. So we're going to be asking for some of that information, and these insight reports can really help with producing some of that information. And I'm sure Alyssa would be available to share her contact details if anyone needs some help with that too. And then I think we are over to a summary. So this is back to Karen.
Thank you very much. So I suppose just some final kind of closing before we open it up to questions that you might have. And I know that Angela's been answering some of those in the chat already. So we're really pleased that the Integrated Care Partnership and the Integrated Care Board are able to launch a second year of the investment fund. We're really pleased about that. What we've hopefully tried to do as part of the process is to really listen to how people found the process itself last year, both those people that were bidding, but also those people that were making decisions on bids. And we've tried to change the process to reflect that. But I suppose it's still the second year and it's still early days. So it may be that there's still more to learn this year as we move forward. So please be with it. Please bear with us whilst we work things through with you to make sure that actually what we get is a really, really good process and some really, really good investment into areas that will make a real difference for local people and local staff. Just to repeat some of the things then that you've heard throughout the session, applications are now open. The portal will go live at 3. They will close on Friday, the 10th of November at just before midnight. Applications this year are through an online way. So we're trying to listen to what we heard from last time, but also simplify the process for those people that are shortlisting, etc. There is a range of support materials. This is one of them. There's a range of support materials that will be published on our website. The address is there. If there's anything else that you need, then please contact the team and we will do everything we can to make sure that you've got the information you need. And then, as Angela said earlier, we are only just launching the ICP strategy, and therefore to learn a little bit more if it's helpful, we have created some further sessions so that you can hear from those kind of subject matter experts on the real priorities that are being worked through in terms of delivery. So we hope that's been a helpful session, just to at least get your minds around things. I think even the The portal demo, etc., will be available. So not expecting you to, listen to the portal demo here and then be able to complete your forms. They're obviously there for you. You can go back and remind yourself. And then obviously our colleagues in the HIN can help you if there's anything else that you need from a kind of a technical perspective. So we hope what we've tried to do is to listen and change our processes, take the funds over more than 1 year so that we don't do what we tried to do last year, which is to try and get lots and lots of work done in a very short space of time. But also make sure they're really targeted on the things that are going to make the difference for local people. So, Chloe, do you want to take the slides down? Thank you for doing that. We now have about 20 minutes for any questions that anyone needs to have answered today. There's also the follow-up questions if anybody needs to post them as well. So, yeah, let us know if there's anything. But if there's any questions that anyone else has now, we're more than happy to answer them. And Chloe, it might be me because I've got a bit of a laggy system today. Do you want to take the slides in?
I think, Karen, we've got some of our first questions now, I think.
Okay. Bex.
Hiya.
Hi.
Thrive, which is a charity, national charity gardening for health, with a centre based in Battersea, so in Wandsworth Place. So we've got an idea. We've even got an initial piece of funding. I'm just curious, do you want to fund or provide the funding to the voluntary sector themselves, or have you got a preference to fund an ICP partner who is working collaboratively with a charity partner? Does it matter?
Angela, do you want to take that?
I think as long as it meets the criteria within the ICP Priorities Fund or the Health Inequalities Fund, it doesn't really matter who it is. So we don't need it to go through a bigger partner. We can work with smaller organisations. That's not a problem at all.
Thank you.
Lovely. Then we've got Sarah.
Thanks so much. I'm Sarah Bainbridge. I'm currently a Darcy Fellow in Croydon Hospital. I wasn't totally clear if we had an idea that could arguably fit into both a prevention bucket and a health inequalities bucket, whether you would need to apply for one fund or the other, or whether that would be assessed at the application stage. I wasn't clear if it's a sort of either or when you go onto the portal.
Angela.
Sorry, it broke up a little bit for some reason. My things. So are you asking whether if you're applying for a cross-cutting theme and a priority, whether you need to put in two applications in essence?
I was actually thinking more, the projects I'm thinking of will both do something for health inequalities and prevention, and therefore
I see.
would I go to two separate funds or make one application that would then be
one application for one of the either funds. So if it's the Health Inequalities Funds, a lot of it's really around place. Catherine could talk about that. So it's about more of a local impact. If what you're thinking of is scale, I'd probably suggest, and you think it's going to deliver on prevention, you go towards the ICP Priorities Fund.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What we don't want to do is to have people bidding for, I'll try this one and I'll try that one. So I think just pick the one that you think is the most appropriate. It may also have further benefits, as you've said, but I think pick one. Sanjay.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. One around the priorities itself. I think you mentioned that we can only apply for one priority, and if we have multiple, then we have to have separate applications. But just give you an example, Age UK's would, like say, we apply for older people, but within that, of course, there's a strand of prevention. So we are covering two priorities. Is that possible to apply one application, or do we have to split it into two?
I think you just have to work through which one is your main one focusing on.
Main one.
So just pick one of them. They both fall into the same sort of funding envelope in that 800,000.
Right.
And we're not a big team behind the scenes, so we'll see that it addresses both.
Yeah, but we should have one kind of big
Pick
priority,
one.
and
Yeah.
that's where.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
And my
you.
second question is that when the ICP conference happened, the chair talked about addressing clients and not patient, and we've been talking about patient here. In our culture in VCS, we don't talk about patients, we talk about clients. So in our application, when we talk about clients, I presume that you will understand that we are talking about patient, and we
Yes.
won't be using this terminology across.
Yeah, don't worry. We use different terminology, don't we? People in South West London is fine.
Okay.
Because they'll come to different brackets at different points, won't they? But yes, no, we won't. You won't not get through if you don't use the jargon that we recognise. Don't worry about that.
Thank you.
We're still learning about each other's terminology, aren't we? So, yeah. Liz.
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm from the First Down project. We are an older people's self-help organisation that tackles social isolation and also promotes good physical and mental health. I put this question in the chat actually. Got an echo. For the Health Inequalities Fund, are there suggested lower and upper limits? I'm just wanting to get a sense of the scale that you're looking for in terms of the projects under the Health Inequalities Fund, because last year there were some very small ones, and but is that what you're looking for again, or because we're keen to sort of make the most difference that we can and really make an impact, but we don't want to kind of pitch it wrong, so to speak.
I know where you're coming from, Liz, and we did give this some thought, because yes, we do want bigger projects that are going to make a bigger difference, but also we do want to encourage people on a local level to grassroots to grow and help their neighbourhood. So it is determined, of course, by the envelope that each place has, and they're not very big. And I mean, it will come down to there is a criteria that the reviewers in each place would be using. So it does come down to the quality of the project that has been suggested, the population they're going to reach, how you know you'll be successful. So it does fall on the bid. So I know it makes it really difficult, but I think you can guess that you can't go for example, all of Croydon's 295,000, but you can sort of have an idea. But I know exactly where you come from, Liz, because we did debate this, but it's one of those things that there will be some really good ideas too by people who want to help their local neighborhoods, as well as there being somebody saying, you know what, I work with this group of people, and it'd be great to work on a larger scale across place. So I think we can all be sensible, and I think we can all sort of look what it is we want to deliver, and how much money this might cost us to deliver realistically.
Thank you.
I think we've got a few
That's
more.
Claire, I think.
Claire and then Emma.
Hello, I'm Claire. You answered in the chat the question that I raised about whether cross-borough applications would be accepted in the Health Inequalities Fund, and you said that they would. Would you, though, expect the proportion of funding to each of the partners within such a bid to be proportionate to the allocation that you've applied to each place, if that makes some sort of sense?
No, because we're not looking for a Southwest London level project here. That's very much the Priorities Fund, but it could happen that, for example, you might be in Croydon and you might be working with a community that sort of goes across the boundary into Sutton, or you might be working across too. So then when those bids come in, we'll scan those and see which place is best placed to take it. So it's not that because one place is a bigger proportion of money than another that your bid would be viewed similarly. It wouldn't be that.
Right. So if we were looking at a bid for it's a network of the same organisations that operate in all of the boroughs, you wouldn't be looking for the health inequalities bid for that scenario.
So if it's in all of the boroughs, so that would be South West London level, that sort of is moving more in then to the priorities fund.
Okay.
But presumably that's targeting very specific health needs in those local areas, isn't it?
It would be health, the wider determinants of health, because it's advice basically, so legal advice, which is obviously links to the wider determinants of health, and we could, you know, our organisations could cover the whole of the South West London area, so that kind of fits the Health Inequalities Fund, but doesn't quite fit what appears to be your place-based approach in that fund.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, put your bid in, they will be looked at, and there is a South West London panel that meets anyway as part of the process. So if there was an application that was very good and very strong, but it stretched across, we wouldn't disadvantage you because you were stretched across. We would look at it, definitely.
I also think you probably want to have a conversation with the place teams, don't you, to make sure that they're in support of that as well. So maybe there's some further conversations on that one, Claire.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Emma.
Hi everyone, I'm Emma Mia, CEO of the Asian Resource Centre of Croydon and also chair of the VCS Leadership Board through the One Croydon Alliance. Just a quick one from me. Do the ideas have to be new ideas, or can we scale up on good projects, existing projects? And are you showing preference for partnership bids?
Angela, what's your
view? Is this for the Priorities Fund, Emma?
Any.
Both any. So in the ICP Priorities Fund, and you'll see there's a question on the application form, there is an opportunity to put something in that has been happening, but you're talking about it happening at scale across, say, all 6 boroughs, because actually people do test things out, and that's part of your evidence base about why you think it might work. So actually that's absolutely fine. Yes, with the weighting of the schools, some people have asked this, obviously that's something that people would really like to see. We will be weighting towards things that are about partnership. That's the very essence of what we're trying to do, the integrated care partnership, get people to work together to break down some of those organisational silos. So yes, you could anticipate that we'll be weighting towards that. Does that help answer? I think that's both parts, yes, thank you.
Do you want an answer for the Health Inequalities Fund?
Go on, Catherine.
Sorry, yeah, so for the Health Inequalities Fund, as you saw in the slides, 75% of the funding was set aside for existing projects. So if you're talking about a project that was already funded last year, they've currently just gone through a review process with all the places, and then we'll now be going to South West London panel to see which one of these projects will be scaled up and continued until to March 2025. So if you're talking about one of those projects, they're probably already in a process. But if it's something that you tried at a small scale somewhere and it was funded by a completely different pot of money, then by all means, apply, because it'd be considered a new project for this pot of money.
Perfect. I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to try and do something. I'm going to do like a quick fire. So I'm going to ask two questions, and then we'll see whether we can answer them at the same time. If not, we'll go for the third. So Vanessa, do you want to come in, and then Rachel, and then see if we can answer them quickly, just to make sure that as many people we can have their questions answered. Otherwise, we'll have to follow them up afterwards. But Vanessa, do you want to start?
Yes, I'm the founder of Focus for One mental health user-led organisation, and I'm a service user myself. And we've never done a bid before. What support will there be there for grassroots organisations like us? Or will there be support put in place?
Can I answer this one?
Please, Sarah, that'd be great. Thank
Karen,
you.
by the way. Hi, I'm Sarah from the Voluntary Sector Alliance, Southwest London Voluntary Sector Alliance. So I would probably suggest, considering the Health Inequalities Fund, because it's kind of locally based, if it is your very first bid, and each has got an infrastructure organisation. I can send you the details of. And depending on what funding they've got available, what kind of resources they have at the moment, they might be able to help you with your application. So you can maybe draft it, start drafting it, and then send it to them. They have a look, they give you some feedback. So depending on what borough you're interested in, maybe if you put the details in the chat, I can follow it up with you.
Yep. Thank you.
And I think Karen's having problems with her buttons, she mentioned. So I think we're just going to move to, was it Hannah next?
I think it was Rachel. Was it me next?
Oh, Rachel, yes.
Yeah, so sorry. Oh, and ignore my doorbell. They can wait. At speed, Rachel McLeod, CEO at Sutton Carer Centre, VCS partner, and we provide services for both young and adult carers. Obviously, carers can fit into a lot of the different priorities. They're a cross-cutting issue, but I noticed that they're visible, particularly within the older people's priority. Was there a rationale, a method in your approach, or yeah, could you explain whether there was a rationale behind that and you want carer bids restricted for some reason in that area? Excuse the echo.
I think that's probably a Rachel or Karen or even Tonya answer for that one, if that's about the older people's ICP strategic priority.
It's really about the carers bit, and if it's easier, I'm happy to speak to someone offline after the meeting. It's because otherwise I'd have to go to each of the information sessions, so if that's easier.
Yeah, we can sort that out, can't we? I think it'll probably be easier to talk you through it.
Okay, and who should I contact then?
You can drop me a line at the investment fund email address, and then we can just organise a time to talk.
Thanks, Angela. Cheers.
Okay, I'm back off mute. I think my computer's trying to tell me something. Hannah, do you want to come in with your question?
Yeah, sorry. And I think some people have answered it already, but I just want a quick one regarding the borders, going over the borders. Because, for example, I've done projects, regarding culture and the BEAM community and all of that. I've done some in South East London, some in South West London, and I'm doing one in Yorkshire from tomorrow. So what does the across borders mean? Is it within the South West London boroughs? Or can you go beyond the South West London? You can. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, South West London is the geography. Thanks for your question, Hannah. And then Sue.
I'll be really quick. You mentioned earlier that you may have clinical leads who have an idea and would like to be married up with someone from the voluntary sector. And I would say that as someone from the voluntary sector in Croydon, I may very well have exactly the same want the other way. Will you facilitate that, or do you foresee that being a conflict of interest? I'm also just aware of that, it's only open for 1 month, so building those other partnerships, I think, will be quite a challenge to write alongside your application. Have you given some thought to that?
Angela and Catherine, do you want to comment on that one?
Yeah, so actually, Sue, yeah, it's great. So either way as well, it works. So it depends whether you're thinking first as your geography first or the subject matter area first. So the subject matter area, then let's hopefully get you along to one of the information sessions, and also the kind of using it as a kind of, I don't want to say speed dating, but informal networking, whereby we can bring yourselves and clinical leads or wherever together to talk about those ideas around those subject matter areas. But we can also act as a bit of an introductions agency in that way as well. So we've got 6 weeks the application process is open for. So hopefully we can make that work in that time. I'm optimistic.
Okay, let's take 2 more questions and then we'll stop for today, shall we? Aniban.
Annie, you there? Annie Gupta?
Oh, I've got another call.
We can't hear you. Can anyone hear him?
No.
No, we can't hear you.
should we, maybe he's having the same problems that I was having. Do you want to put your question in the chat and maybe we can answer it in that way? I'm just conscious, everybody, that it's 3 o'clock. I wanted to thank you all very much for your time today. And more importantly, thank you for whatever work you're going to be putting together to make sure that we have some really great bits to support people in South West London. So just wanted to say thank you very much. We hope this has been really helpful and useful. If there's anything else that the team can help with, then please drop them an email and we can answer any questions offline. And hopefully, as we said, all the materials will be now going up onto the website and therefore you can have access to that as well. But we hope it was helpful. And just to thank those people that were here with us during the first wave who've helped us get to a different and more kind of, I think, an easier process to go through, hopefully from both the perspective of the bidder, but also the perspective of the person that will shortlist. So just wanted to thank you very much for your time. We really look forward to receiving the information from you and talking to you further as we go. But thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, team.